This is the People's Water Board Coalition Water Wednesday webcast for March 16th, 2022.
Welcome, 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 beloved community. We're back again with yet another installment of our Water Wednesdays webcast by the People's Water Board Coalition. And I'm joined again by my lovely co-host, Valerie Jean Blakely, our behind the scenes tech and comment people, Lou Novak and Rosalind Walker. And today we have a guest that's very close to my heart, very powerful man that has been doing work around decommissioning of nuclear waste facilities, particularly the FERMI 2 plant here in Michigan. And he just does phenomenal work. And we want to really bring to you today the ideology of tying this into what could possibly happen if this isn't decommissioned and what issue it could cause for water across Michigan. Today we have Jesse Deerenwater. Thank you so much, Jesse, for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse.
Whatever. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a really important conversation to have, and you really spend most of your time working on this, and so it's really, really important. It was really important for us to have you on to have this conversation, and it's only a 30-minute show, so we're going to jump right in. Can you want to tell us about craft, what it is, and kind of how you started doing this work?
Yeah. So I'll start with craft, and then I'll have to rewind to before craft. But it's a good story. Craft was actually formed in 1993 when the Enrico Fermi 2 nuclear power station threw a turbine, which caused it to it impaled the wall and caused it to spill a bunch of water out into the basement that was radioactive, and there were a bunch of issues around it. And it was unsafe to keep running, but DTE was like trying to keep it going. And so concerned citizens, came together and resisted this. And the fight was on ever since. People have been monitoring this FERMI 2, the waste discharge, DTE's ongoings. And, we currently have a newsletter. It's been going on for 8 years straight now. And so that's a little bit about craft. How I got involved in the work goes way back to even before I was born. Through resisting colonialism. My people on my dad's side have a long history of that, and then also my mom was a nuclear abolitionist, and in this work before I was even born. Fighting one reactor that was trying to be built in Indian Territory or what's now Cherokee, the Cherokee Reservation in Northeast Oklahoma in Inola, called the Black Fox reactor, and a cross-cultural, cross-class resistance, pretty much, led on the ground by natives, helped stop that. And then I'm born, and where I'm born at, there's a uranium processing plant that's freaking dumping waste illegally, poisoning the community. People who are working there are getting sick and dying, and it's all Indians, pretty much, local people in the community. So the local Katuas and Cherokees and some other people banded together to fight this and formed a group called Native Americans for a Clean Environment, which my mom was one of the organizers for. And I was born and raised, going to the protests, learning the lingo, how they work, and the different stuff. And so that's kind of how I got into this work. And fast forward to moving back to Michigan, and kind of having a foothold in this, and volunteering, and then just getting wrapped up in it. And now here I am. organizing, in different capacities.
You were born in a movement family.
Yeah.
That's
That's
my
so
kids.
ironic. I think that's just so ironic that you were born in a movement family, because I think, I was born into a movement family as well. And I just, it's like, it just becomes your life's work. You don't even realize it. It's just such a normal thing for you to do that it's like, you don't even realize a lot of times that you're doing organizing and activism because it's just second nature.
It's something you've been doing your whole life. I love that you
Yeah.
started off with
Yeah.
started way before I was born. I love it. It's like,
Yeah.
I've been involved in this forever. That's great. So I really appreciate that background so people kind of understand all of that, and kind of the history of that, because it's important to know the people who do this work and how long they've been doing it. So how is FERMI affecting water? What dangers does it pose? What's the direct threat?
Wow. The vast, far and wide, but the direct threat will just start with the plant itself and its cooling process and the water that it uses for that process. Up to 45 million gallons a day. In that opening little video, that's a little informational, we created with some of the stats on it. Yes, so they're using 45 million gallons of water a day for their processes. They're intaking that. And so they're sucking in, all the life in the water, that's around there to start with, water. And then it goes in, used for the processes. Some is used up, comes out in the steam, others, evaporated here and there. And it's released back into the water, but it's not released as it came in. It's released with all the chemicals and contaminants used for the processes. It's also released with the water treatment chemicals and contaminants. And then there's also the radionuclides that are coming out attached to the water. And so and they dilute this at a 10-to-1 ratio. So if it's using 45 million gallons of water a day, 10-to-1, that's 4.5 million gallons of treated and contaminated wastewater material that's going back out a day. And a lot of that is silt. It lands and goes in the water. A lot of it's a little lighter and floats out, but it's all impacting Lake Erie and the ecosystems in and around it, and the subsistence lifestyle that a lot of people live by living off the land, like fishing and foraging. I always hear these stories about the fishermen who love to fish down by FERMI in the winter and all this other stuff because the water's not doesn't freeze and it's always warm and they can catch certain kinds of fish. And so there's that. And
Do you
then
think
there's
it's
also
that they don't understand? Do you think that they don't understand how contaminated the water is, or they've just been doing it for so long, or?
Yes, well, there's this combo. I can imagine that I would say three things off the top of my head. One is that they don't know. The other is that the government and all these different people, not the government, the regulators, are saying that it's okay. The people who are doing the polluting in the communities, DTE, are saying it's okay. And they've been
Just being
doing it for
lied
this.
to.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and just been doing it for so long that it's just like okay. And so one of the things that is also happening with the warmth of the water is this thermal discharge, which is also called thermal pollution,
Mhm.
which is when the water comes out at this high degree, way above the average temperatures of whatever it is. And
And it's a bit.
the average Western Basin temperature is such and such on Lake Erie. FERMI releases water up to like 70 degrees higher. And so that heavily impacts all the local fish and ecosystem. And so things that can will move away from that, but things that can't are going to stay and die and become impacted, polluted, and affected. So
Mhm.
there's just a few ways right there uh, that FERMI 2 is directly impacting the water. Yeah.
So
So,
I know that.
JP, do you think that any of the people who rely on the ecosystem to survive, whether it's from fishing or foraging, they did not, do you think it just neglected to cross their mind that there's a very definitive reason around why this water around this area is not freezing?
Yeah, I can imagine that's where, the state regulators and DTE's influence come in pretty heavy, is that
Yeah.
no one's saying that this is not okay. There's been battles in court to try to regulate thermal pollution, but it's just a part of the process of the energy output, and so it usually gets okayed. You know what I mean? And so it's
Forget about the water, forget about
yeah,
the
yeah,
animals and the ecosystems and everything, the people, just forget
and
about it. We're going to keep business as usual.
yeah. And on another note of what Nicole was asking, is uh the things like how much people are fishing, how much people are foraging, how much time people are spending in that water swimming, uh, and there's all these
Oh my
different
God.
deciding factors that are not taking into consideration in their calculations. They have like a little it's like an equation or whatever it is that they use for, how much exposure people and things are getting from this output. And when you don't include food pathways, food pathways from the earth, and when you don't include these different interactions with the water and exposure, then you don't get the numbers that say that you're being impacted. And so
Mhm.
that's another reason too, is that these numbers aren't showing up, that people are being impacted because they're not included in the calculations that
Right.
they have for how much people and plants and things like that are exposed to.
Which is so intentional. Corporations lie all the time and they push the numbers all the time, and
Mhm.
they make up legislation that they're able to pay for all the time. It's
Yeah,
just
they run that
it's their
money.
MO. I mean, we literally ran a whole campaign a few years back, just Enbridge lies, right? Like Enbridge lies.
Yeah.
That was the whole like a whole
Yes.
campaign. And DTE, we could definitely run a whole campaign on the many ways that DTE lies to us and poisons us every day. Like
Yes.
we could
And
probably
what
list,
DTE realizes, and what a lot of people don't seem to realize or know what to do about, is that that's like one of their main weaknesses, is that they are
Mhm.
polluting and doing injustices to the people that they're supposed to be serving. And so, but it's hard to make that stick because they have so much influence in the community. But that's the weakness in their underbelly, is that they are literally polluting, lying to, and poisoning the people that they're supposed to be serving.
yeah.
And they'll
Right.
fight to the death to, keep it that way. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
or
Look, they don't
keep,
have to fight
keep their,
too hard because we have agencies like Eagle, which was formerly the MDEQ,
That
and the
backs them every chance.
MPSC that backs them full and wholeheartedly.
Yeah, the
yes.
government absolutely allows them to do the things that they're doing.
And it's really messed up because on a lot of these environmental justice boards and these climate and environmental boards, these DTE representatives are on there. You know what I mean? They should not be on there. They should be being looked at by the boards. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The, it yeah. That's like,
After what DTE did around Prop 1, all the money they threw to like make that disappear, all of that money, I don't know how anybody in Detroit trusts them at all ever again. I mean, between them and Blue Cross Blue Shield took that whole, we'll never see Prop P. We'll never, and it was about protecting water, right? It was about making sure that people had affordable water. Why would DTE want to stand against that? You say, like the whole thing is, yeah, I don't know why anybody in Detroit would ever trust DTE.
But I
for
mean,
anything.
we already know that DT is untrustworthy. Just the fact that Detroit has more deaths and injuries from shoddy service, downed wires, shut off than the entire service area. across Michigan let you know what they really think of where the vast majority of their customers are located.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, do you want to, I know that it's probably really hard to comprehend the things that are being put in the water, but do you want to kind of give us a rundown of what kind of is being dumped into the water to damage it and how it's being,
Yeah. Yes. As a matter of fact, I was just going over their last dumping permit that they have, which is really hard to find online, and we search files down all the time. But luckily, we had one printed off from a few years ago, and I was able to get that. And so there's lots of interesting stuff in here. It's hard to put together how much because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and like these different places that they're monitoring from, and it's really weird how they do these different monitoring, because it says that the monitoring requirements above shall be taken prior to discharge in Lake Erie. So there's just all kinds of different stuff. So anyway, we have copper monthly, 380 pounds. No, phosphorus, 380 pounds monthly. Let's see here. 15 pounds a day copper. Plus plus this other stuff, Spectrus CT1300, which is which has to do with keeping the zebra mussel clams, or the zebra mussels, under control in their intake and output because of the heat that they really latch on. So they have to use a special chemical in the mix that you cannot apply directly because it's whatever weird chemical stuff. And so they have to mix it in with the water, and it has to be a little bit stronger because it's mixed in with the water to run it through the pipes to flush these zebra mussels out. And so there's some weird stuff that they're dumping in there.
And then it all just gets discharged back, into like the Great Lakes.
Yeah. I was actually going to the page that has names of the actual stuff on it. There's all the zines, azabenzene, then there's dichlorobenzidine, DDD, DDE, 4,4-DDT, aldrin, arsenic, barium, benzidine, beryllium,
it's all the
chromium,
stuff in tar sands.
copper,
That's all the stuff
cyanide,
in tar
Wait a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
hexafluorobenzene.
Did you say DDT?
DDT, yeah, it literally says right here. Where's it at? I'm not sure if that's like the DDT we look at.
I remember
DDT.
I remember reading about that chemical in a science class where they were saying that women back in the 60s that worked in the plants that manufactured that, like all the women that were in the plants that were still working while they were pregnant, their babies came out with this disorder where they had hands and feet, but no arms and legs. So essentially, they looked like penguins.
Yeah, genetics.
And the thing, they started wondering why this kept happening, and the only conclusion they came to was that all these women had worked in the plants where they were making the DDT. So instead of saying, okay, we can't use this chemical anymore, it's harmful to humans, so God knows what it's doing to the rest of the environment, they just said, oh, when a woman gets pregnant, she just can't work at the factory.
It's insane because that it's affecting everybody. But also that list of stuff, we made a list of the stuff that was in tar sands, and 90% of that was in it.
Yeah,
literally.
Because there's a lot of it that's used for the processes, and then there's a lot of it that's just being that's a byproduct of the processes and the chemicals and the contaminations, and just all the different things. And there's like 7 different kinds of PCBs. There's all these things, and all these things are going into the water, the fish, the algae, the ecosystems, the human beings, right, who are fishing, and and so these levels don't really look dangerous. I mean, actually, they look dangerous to me, and they are dangerous.
They look dangerous to me.
But in their calculations, the government EPA's calculations and NRC's calculations, and whoever okays the permits, EPA, their calculations, without adding the food pathways, the natural subsistent food pathways to their calculations, these numbers don't show like they impact people, but they
Right.
will. I mean, they actually do impact people.
Right.
Uh,
And that's intentional that the numbers don't show that.
of course,
Yeah, that's what
because if they
I
did, that
like.
would be
That's
bad.
deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
very
that's
intentional.
DTE running the money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how they're able to get away with
And
it.
it's always, and this is a common theme, and I really want our viewers to think about this as they view our shows throughout the rest of the year. Here's a common theme, no matter what our topic is, whether it's talking about the disastrous FERMI 2, whether it's talking about affordability, whether it's talking about lead service lines. The one thing that remains the same across the board is it's always our government putting profits over people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Always.
Absolutely. What kinds of things can people do to get involved, Jesse? What can people do to help join the fight to shut it down?
Well, there's lots of things. There's the fight to get it shut down, and there's the things we need to do for that. And then there's also what we got to create instead, our other solutions, the other pathways,
Right.
the future we want to see and the future we want to exist in. And so there's two ways to get involved. One is educating yourself. If you're able, to the best extent possible, and don't be afraid to talk on the issues, because sometimes whenever we get out talked on something, that's the drive to go and find out, you know what I mean, to go find the more information so that they can out talk us. At least that's how I am. And then and then there's also you can visit our website. We have a resources page that has all of our newsletters and inserts. And our newsletters is us tracking monthly what's going on. Our inserts are usually our actions or updates. We also have an action thing. We also have an action page on our website that has our current actions. And that's shutdownfermi.org. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get that out to where people can see the physical thing of it. But,
I'll put it in the comments section
all right.
below as soon as we get off. I'll put it in
All right.
link to the website.
Cool. Yeah. And then on our actions page, we're actually coming up with what we like to call an evergreen action, one that's going to last for a long, long time. And that's going to be a really badass fact sheet and letter that we put together that that people can send to their reps, and it's going to be like an action network type of thing, and that's
So
going to be
super easy, just like copy paste and send it in. Yeah.
And track our actions on our website, because every time something's coming up, we're getting in on it. Like here recently, there was the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, which left the door wide open for nukes. It was terrible, and had a lot of clarity on shit that there's already clarity on, and no clarity on stuff we need clarity on. And so
right.
And so we submitted comments, and we supported some other groups and helped write some just different stuff. And so that action was on our action page too, and so people can continuously tap into our things. And then there's also nationwide stuff happening too. And that's on the fighting end of the FERMI. I really suggest people sign up for our newsletter and get that monthly, because our newsletter person is on that all day, every day, and getting the best stories and putting it out there for folks. And on the other end of the future we want to exist in, people can start you know, helping, when you see groups pushing for the local, especially EJ, Detroit groups, community groups, groups that are about environmental justice, groups that are saying no false solutions, no nukes, and are standing in solidarity with other impacted communities. those groups that are building the futures we want to see are important because they're the ones who have the solutions for the communities that are already impacted and are keeping other communities in mind too. So I would say groups like Solidarity, Michigan Environmental Justice Coalition, EMEAC, and are groups who are really in the communities, around here and or involved with, different levels of stuff in different places. And yeah, because renewable is doable.
Right.
There's yeah. I mean, there's studies out there that have how different states can do 100% and make the transition and
And that's
realize that.
really, that's really where we really need people to be thinking about, instead of like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we can't, all these people standing up and saying we can't put in new oil infrastructure or any of these other things. Well, there's so many other things that we could do that would create a future for our kids that where they wouldn't have to worry about energy problems and things like that. I mean, they may always have to, but it'd be nice if we created something where they didn't have to worry so much about it and where it didn't trash the entire planet. Like the dreaming of the world that we want to see is that's what that's what's happening right now. We hope that we can manifest it
Yeah.
for 7 generations ahead. Why not? Why
Yeah.
not? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I think
when
if we stop,
Winona LaDuke said it in Mackinac on March 13th, 2021. She said it. She said the party's over and they know it. They know it. There's the oil companies. They know they're at the end of an era, and they're going to skip what they're doing right now. Right, is getting as much as they can out of it because they know the party's over.
Mhm.
That we can't do this anymore. It's not
Exactly.
sustainable. It's not even sustainable for them. As much as
But
they
I
lie.
think if we realize that, if we stop and realize as citizens that the earth is a living, breathing life force.
That's right.
Yeah, and
If you
and
look at
develop
the
our
human
relationships
body,
with it.
they say that anything that happens to the human body, if it's given the right nutrients, it can fix itself within a period of time. What are we going to do if we continue on this path and the earth gets to the point where she's like, I'm just going to fix myself and I'm going to purge everything that's negative out of me? We're going to be going along with that ship too. So what we can do is learn how to work in conjunction with her and be good stewards of her.
Yes, yes, and develop our relationships with Elohi or the earth and the waters too. These waters that we're fighting for, these waters we drink from, these waters that clean our bodies, that give the cooling process water to the plants, that this water, like we develop, if you care about it, you gotta develop your relationship with it, and not just the relationship of us where we pay our bill at and turning on the water like that, but also
How it
the
benefits us.
land. Yeah, yeah, getting out there, uh the earth really does uh care for us. It has for a long time and has provided for us for a long time, and has stewarded us as we were little babies. We're still little babies as humans, as time on this earth. And look how we're doing in return, you know what I mean? It's yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like yeah, we like live on the earth, but it's like in our hands, you know what I mean? Especially right now where we're at and what what we're doing, because we're existing here with it. And man, there's just too much life that we impact for us not to take a better look at how we're impacting things and what our responsibilities as
And what it
beings,
means to
on this earth is.
what it means to protect the sacred, and and
Yes.
following indigenous teachings and leadership to teach us how to do it, because we don't know how. That was taken away from us a long time ago
Mm,
when really when a bunch of colonizers got here and said, oh, you people don't need to know that. we're going to take those teachings away from you. We're going to do, and there was a reason they said that, because they knew they could not rule the earth and the people with those teachings, because they don't teach that. We work together, so that's why it's really, really so important. That's a really great way, a beautiful way to, I'm teared up a little bit. Anytime we start talking about the planet and our relationship to it, it feels like we harm her so much that it's overwhelming. I always have, but I think that's a beautiful way to end this. Thank you, Jesse, so much for the work that you do every day to make the world a better place. Yeah. And I'm hoping we get to have you on one day when we celebrate. We'll celebrate in the streets and certainly on this show. Nicole, thank you for always going down this journey with me. It's important, and I appreciate it every week. Try to take care of each other, all of our listeners out there, and try to stay afloat. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone listening got something out of it.
We definitely have to have you back again and push this conversation further. We have to get this information out to the masses.
That's right. Thank you.